Show, though, I want to thank.
And now, here's Casey Ingram.
We have a couple great Meet Your Candidates here in the studio today. And it's a rainy day. I hope you all are staying dry and safe because it is downpouring out there and coming in. The roads are flooded all over the place. So we need the rain, but holy moly. Before we get into the show, though, I want to thank Indian Town Marine Center. Remind everybody that they're a newly constructed 38-acre marine service and storage facility offering dockage, workspace, and long-term storage. Efficient and user-friendly location for servicing and storing vessels while still maintaining cleanliness, environmental quality, and safety. 250 and 100-ton lift capacity. They are 20 miles inland. Great hurricane protection. And folks, reserve your spot now because once a storm is named, it is very likely you will not find a place to store your boat in town. They have 2,800 linear feet of dock space, foreign trade zone. Bring your vessel and your own contractor. 3-phase, single-phase shore power. Give them a call at 772-597-0800 or look them up online, IndiantownMarineCenterFL.com. In the studio for the first half hour, I have Joseph Bauer. He is running for Florida Senate District 31, which is currently held by Senator Harrell. Second half hour, I'll have Eileen Vargason, and she's running for Martin County Commission. But first, we are going to get to know Joe. With a PhD and highly diversified and progressive experience in laboratory management, drug development, translational research, cancer medicine, personalized medicine, nutrition, metabolomics. Is that right?
Metabolomics, yes.
I have not even
Metabolism.
Metabolism. And academic industry partnerships under his belt, Joseph Bauer is a true visionary in the field of science. His consultative leadership style has been instrumental in achieving both scientific and business objectives throughout his impressive career. Not only has he secured financing for 2 oncology biotechnology startups and a 501c3 organization, but he has also successfully managed externally funded translational cancer research programs exceeding $5 million. With an exceptional ability to build and lead teams, Joseph has brought together over 50 people to work on both internal and external oncology research and development projects. His keen eye for innovation led him to develop improved high-throughput screening methods for anti-cancer, small molecules, and biologics. He's also managed preclinical and early clinical phases of oncology drug discovery and development with great success. Joseph's expertise goes beyond the lab as he's well-versed in implementing standard operating procedures, conducting pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic evaluations, and designing effective clinical studies. In addition to his impressive track record, he has also been responsible for managing project budgets exceeding $5 million. His involvement in technology transfer and intellectual property portfolios has generated significant investments upward of $5 million. Moreover, Joseph's skills extend beyond the laboratory as he designed and implemented lab-scale production of pharmaceuticals under good manufacturing practice guidelines. And to top it off, Joseph is a seasoned executive director at Walsh University, where he built an entire laboratory from scratch. With his vast knowledge and experience in preparing applications for approvals from major regulatory bodies such as the United States Food and Drug Administration, the FDA's Center for Veterinary Medicine, and the United States Department of Agriculture, Joseph Bauer is truly a force to be reckoned with in the world of science. Holy moly, that is quite a resume we have here.
That's the end of our half hour.
Yeah,
know,
no kidding.
I
Wow,
know.
thank you, Casey. I'm speechless.
So, well, Joe, that really is a tremendous resume.
It kind of put me to sleep a little bit there, though. I'm like, yeah, it's like, wow, is that really me? And I sounded boring there.
Not at all boring. Not at all boring. And thank you, by the way, Evan Nine. He's over, my normal engineer. He is vacationing and tuning in from the Bahamas, so we have some international listeners today.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful. I bet the weather in the Bahamas is nice.
Oh, I know. It's definitely a good time to be away because it is raining cats and dogs here. But we want to know all about you, Joe. So, first of all, why did you throw your hat into the political ring to run for Senate?
You know, I ask myself that question, and my wife and I all the time, every day. Why did you do this? No, I'm a very conservative person. I'm 54 years old, but I'm, very conservative. I've been raised, essentially by the greatest generation, and a lot of those values. I mean, I grew up on the Andy Griffith Show, the town of Mayberry,
Yes.
Bonanza, all these, Little House on the Prairie, all of these shows, which really, were great for back then because they talked about the importance of family. They talked about, just basically good common sense All those movies had a story and a storyline, and they try to teach you something, a little life lesson, right?
Right, they did.
And so, that's basically what I'm about. And so I've been in Florida for 15 years now. I just didn't show up here yesterday. A lot of people think that for some reason. I don't understand. I came in Florida in 2009. I actually ran for the board, PGA Village. We had a condo there, and I was on the board there for 5 years as a treasurer. And they were going in the red. I mean, they were not doing too well because there were a lot of people that weren't paying their monthly maintenance fees. And so I implemented I have a background in accounting as well, and so I implemented a very strict program where we were putting liens on people's property if they didn't pay those maintenance fees. And within the 4-year period, we finally got back in the black, and they've been very healthy financially ever since. So I do have a skill set where I can work with people. I mean, that's if you want to run for politics, run for, say, some HOA board or a property owners association board. Try that, because that's kind of going to give you a little mini indication of what you will experience in political office. Most of the time, most people don't like like half of the people like what you're doing, half of the people don't like what you're
right.
doing. So you got to prepare. You have to have a thick-skinned. But anyway, so my dad and I were always these. My dad's very. He was a United States Marine. My grandfather was a United States Marine. My grandfather fought. In fact, I have this aluminum band that I wear. It's from Iwo Jima.
Oh,
So this is about 90
wow.
years old. My
Oh,
my
geez.
grandfather made this. He carved that Iwo Jima on there. He made that for my grandmother. And on the inside, it has a inscription to her.
Wow.
But they were people that when they take an oath as a Marine or as anyone in the armed forces, you take an oath to fight enemies, foreign and domestic. And so my dad, God rest his soul, has passed. But we would have a lot of my dad loved to study history, and we would have a lot of political discussions, and we would be complaining about can we change this, why aren't we doing this, why isn't this and so I would sit back and we would just complain, right? And nothing came out of it. And I thought, you know what, I'm tired of complaining. I want to run for office. And so I saw that. I looked up, my district was District 31, so it's Martin County. They did some redistricting here.
They did.
Used to be District 25, apparently.
Yes.
But now it's District 31, which comprises all of Martin County, a portion of St. Lucie County, and then, of course, the northern portion of Palm Beach County. So it's pretty large county,
It is.
people. Yeah. And so I've been to all three Republican. I'm running as a Republican executive committees. Each county has a Republican executive committee, so you have to go there and prostrate yourself and blah, 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 blah. So that's been fun. I've learned a lot of things.
I bet you have. Did you notice any differences between the RECs and the three counties?
As a matter of fact, yeah, I think I liked. I had the most welcoming experience, I would say, in Palm Beach. Probably because they're more far removed from what's going on. Senator Harrell is probably more, in my guesstimate, is probably more. Most people, prior to the redistricting, have been probably in Martin County, right, and more up north. And I don't know if there's been a lot of her presence in Palm Beach County. And so for them, since they really don't have a good handle on an experience with her, they were very embracing. I came to the Martin County Executive Committee. I met with Patty Marchese, I think.
Yes.
Very nice person. I met with Mary Lynn Magar, who actually, when I was in Vero, the early portion of for 5 years, around the 2009, 10, 11, 12. That's when I was in Vero. She was I believe, the Florida representative at the time.
Correct.
I actually sent her an email because my wife is a veterinarian. We had some issues. We wanted to have promote a trap, neuter, release policy as opposed to just euthanizing and killing all these cats. And so there was a bill that went to the Florida House. And so I emailed, Mary Lynn, and I said, hey, Representative, Magar, could you? I got like one of those auto responses. Nobody called me, and the bill died anyway. So it was kind of disappointing. So I kind of knew of her. Basically, we sat in a room, just, Patty and Maryland, and then they're like, yeah, tell us about yourself. And so when I went to Port St. Lucie County, they didn't care about anything I had to say. I mean, they were clearly for the incumbent. But at least Maryland I think it was a little tongue in cheek, to be honest with you, but at least she heard me out. And she's basically like, well, you got a long road to hoe. Good luck. You're probably not going to make it. You know, it's basically the gist of it. I'm like, and so I came home from that meeting, and I said to my wife, I said, yeah, I said, this wasn't very encouraging. No. So, yeah, it's really kind of a shame. So I've tried to make myself accessible. This was one of the reasons I really ran, to be honest with you. I'd emailed Senator Harrell, I'd emailed the governor, I'd emailed Representative John Snyder, and I had an issue. And I thought it was an important issue, and I said, you know, blah, 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 could you email me back? Well, I even emailed a commissioner in Martin County, Ed Chiampi.
Okay.
So I thought, so nobody's emailing me back, so I want to, none of them, right? So now I'm hounding this Ed Chiampi guy, right? Okay. So I'm calling, finally he picks up the phone, and he's talking to me, and I told him about this issue, and you could tell he was kind of perturbed, just he had to pick up the phone. And so his last comment to me was, well, if you're dissatisfied, why didn't you sue the county? I'm like, what kind of jerk is this? I mean, sue, what? That's your answer? Have a lawsuit against the county? You're not willing to work to try and prevent? You would. So anyway, now I decided I'm going to start trying to get a hold of Senator Harrell. So now I'm calling the local district office, which I think is right above you guys here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Ann Bullock was the person that answered the phone. I said, my name is Dr. Bauer. I'm a constituent. I would like to talk to Senator Harrell about this issue. Well, she doesn't believe it's an issue. I said, well, I'd like to talk to her. Nah, no, you're not going to talk to her. And so we had this. So I thought, man, you can't talk to anybody. Isn't this a government of the people, by the people, for the people? I'm one of the people. You can't talk to me? And I was really disappointed with that. You know, I came from Ohio. I was born and raised in Ohio. And I can't tell you how many of the either U.S. congressmen, Ralph Regula, you call his office, he's passed away, but you can talk to him. I had to call one time a state representative about some issue. I don't even remember what it was. It was some academic issue with the Ohio University system or something. So I called up. The guy picks up the phone. I called the sheriff here in Martin County, Sheriff Snyder. You can't get a hold of this guy. He's like Joe Biden hiding in a basement somewhere. It's just unbelievable. Sheriff Darrell Lohr, by the way, in Indian River County, if you call the sheriff's office and you say, I want to speak to, I think he may have retired too. You want to speak to Darrell Lohr? Hello, this is Darrell Lohr. I'm like, Darrell Lohr, are you the sheriff of Indian River County? Yes, I am. I said, you got to be, I'm like, you're kidding me. You're talking to me on the phone. He says, that's what I do. I'm a servant of the people. And so anyway, when I just
really motivated you to throw your hat in
he
the ring.
did. I'm like, there are some people that are accessible, but my what I've experienced is, for some reason, I don't know, is it a Florida thing? I can't figure it out. Is it this part of Florida? The politicians are not accessible, and they're all career politicians. They're all these politicians. They love it. They love the power. I'm not a career politician. I'm a business person. I have a background, as you told in the beginning, in health, science, and medicine, which the state of Florida needs badly right now.
Sure do.
Do you know this, that we're the fourth wealthiest state in the Union, in the United States of America? Fourth wealthiest state, bottom 20% in terms of healthcare accessibility and healthcare quality.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, and nobody's doing anything about it.
So this kind of piggybacks here. That's what I was going to say. What would you bring as an elected representative to the Senate that's not there now? And I think you're talking about a couple of those issues already. So what else would you focus on? I mean, healthcare certainly is going to be your main focus, I would think, with your background.
Healthcare is definitely going to be a focus, and I think I'm probably one of the only people that would be part of the Florida legislative body that has that experience. I know I've worked with, the FDA. I've worked with pharmaceutical I've worked with big companies, and I'd like to just know everything right now in terms of health and science is East Coast, West Coast. Nobody's coming down to Florida for anything. We need to change that. But another issue that I think is very important, which I'm very concerned about, is the Senate Bill 102 that passed. In Senate Bill 102, again, One of the reasons I'm a Republican over a Democrat, and I'm not one of these. I see you got some red and blue over here, coloring, yeah, of the station.
You've got the flags behind
Yeah,
you. So.
but yeah, I love it. God bless America. But one of the reasons I decided,
The Live Local Act you're talking about with
yes,
Senate Bill 102.
exactly.
Yes. Okay.
I wanted to be when I was looking at Republicans versus Democrats, I wanted to be a Republican because number one, the Republican ideology is supposed to be that the smaller the size of government, the better, and the more local you can get it to the person. That's what you want, and that's what I want. So Senate Bill 102, which Senator Harrell voted for, is basically takes away the rights of the county commissioners and the city commissioners to develop land. And so what do we have? We've got all these apartments and stuff like this being built. Apparently, from what I was told, the original plans, they wanted these apartments to be like 7 stories. And then I think they made a compromise to make them 4 stories. I got nothing against apartments. I mean, I lived in an apartment the first 10 years of my marriage, and probably was the most happy back then, too, because my expenses weren't as bad. But the one thing about apartments is it's very transient. You know, you have young families that want to make it a foothold and raise a family in Martin County. What are you going to do that in an apartment? Come on. You need a backyard for those kids and everything else. So what should have been done, first of all, is as the state has no business telling Martin County what the hell they're going to do with their land and how they want to develop it. That's why you have Martin County commissioners. That's why you have the city of Stewart. What are they commissioners too? Or
They are.
Okay,
Yes,
City
yes,
of
they
Stewart
are.
commissioners. Yeah, there's some different titles for these.
There are. Yes.
Yeah.
Some are council members.
Councilman,
what have you.
right. Yeah, no, that's right. We got to keep it local, and so that Senate Bill 1, that was a disaster. Never should. But you know what? Senator Harrell's living in a $3.5 million house up on the point. There ain't no apartments being built there. So what does she care? But, you know, she was funded by Sugar and also the developers. And that's why I never wanted to take any political action committee, no money from anybody. And I haven't. I've taken in 0 campaign funds. However, I was really hoping that I would get the people, you know, $5 here, $20 here, $100 to give me money.
You need money to get elected.
You do
It's
need
the way
money.
it is.
I mean, there's a qualifier coming up. I believe it's this Friday.
Yes, it is.
And they need $2,000. You need $2,000 for that. To stay qualified, and I didn't raise the money. I don't want to go broke doing this, but the commitment I made, I was on this podcast with the Doc, called the Doc Collins episodes.
Yes.
He's downtown Stewart.
He's also a city commissioner in Stewart.
Yes, city commissioner too. Yeah,
Yes.
and he's a chiropractor.
Yes, he is.
So if your back is hurting, you know.
You gotta see.
Yeah, exactly.
Doc Collins. That's
Yeah,
right.
Doc Collins. Anyway, so I was on this podcast, great guy, and. Now I've lost, Casey, you have such a beautiful smile. I lost my train of thought here. What were we talking about?
Well, we were at the Live Local Act. You talked about going to the podcast with Doc Collins.
I mean, I'm having a Joe Biden moment.
I know.
I mean, what is going on
you
here?
were going down about the commissioners. I think it was probably to relate with the Live Local Act, but
It was, and so he was one of the first persons that told me about that Live Local Act.
he's very passionate about building homes for single families
That's
as well.
it. And I'm talking to him. I'm like, Chris, I'm like, you know, Dr. Collins. I said, this is great. I said, you know, this is exactly what, you know, he wants to build starter homes or at least subsidize for families. That way they stay here. They have roots here.
Right.
And so I was very impressed with that conversation.
As opposed to living in the apartments and it's types of thing. And that was really a tough thing with the SB 102. And I think it passed the Senate unopposed. And I think there was about 6 House members that voted against it. But everybody here on the Treasure Coast voted for it. But it was a very contentious thing here locally for sure. So it's interesting that you picked up on that. And you know, so obviously you are for home rule.
Oh, absolutely. Again, listen, I don't believe we got to. The one thing I don't like about the Democratic Party is it gets a little too close on the fringes to socialism. And you know, if you're a student of history, socialism is the next step from socialism is communism. So you know, and you say, oh God, these guys and that's all they're preaching and communism. So listen, it's a reality, and you have to be very careful about it. What's going on college campuses today? You know, this pro-Palestine movement. And I have nothing against, that whole thing, hopefully it should get resolved. But now the movements are starting to death to America, this kind of stuff.
It's a
And it's like,
slippery
wait a
slope.
minute. Yeah, this is not good. But one of the things also that concerned me with Senator Harrell is some of her voting. She also voted on no. There was, thank God it passed. It was an act to protect children that had gender dysphoria, that were thinking they may identify as a man or a woman. And she was the only Republican to vote no for that. Luckily, it went through.
Okay.
Because it was what it would have done if it would have passed. It would have allowed children, minors, to have surgeries, to have changes, sex changes. It would have allowed hormonal therapy. And if you talk to any MDs, hormonal therapy, even as a woman, women that are postmenopausal. I mean, when you start taking hormones, it really affects your body. It affects your organs. It is not a joke. It's not something you got to take it seriously. And one of the things that I found that was very interesting, if you think statistically the demographics of this transgender, so the age groups, what age groups do you think would be the majority of those individuals that identify as another gender?
It's younger, I would say.
It is 75% of people that say they're transgender are children between the ages of 12 and 18. Wow. Is this a surprise? No, it's not. Do you know why? Because when you're during that age group,
They're immature and they're not
yes,
sure what's going on.
and you're
yet.
developing.
Right.
And as your body develops, you're flooded. Your body is basically a chemical factory. You are flooded with chemicals, right?
Right.
As a child. And so, people have these things. Oh, should I be a man? There's a spectrum of femaleness and
Right.
maleness, right? We all know this. And so these are normal feelings for these children to have. But you can't let a child make these decisions.
Should be an adult decision.
It should be an adult decision. And the interesting thing is, a very small minority are adults anyway. So
Right.
it's not something that's affecting a lot of people, to be honest. I don't know how this movement has taken off.
It has over the last decade in a really big way. We're less than a minute, so this half hour just flies by.
It does fly by, but I've been having a great time.
We've learned a lot about you. I had a whole bunch of questions. Didn't get to
Give me
any
a
of them,
question.
but that's
Can we bring in
okay.
a listener on the radio? Can they call in?
Actually, I don't let it happen on the candidates, but we have just 10 seconds.
Oh,
This is
I would love to
Joseph
talk to the
Bauer,
people.
Florida Senator for Senate District 31.
Plug
we
my
wish you
website.
very well. So tell me what it is.
Okay,
Tell me
it
what
is. It is. Crap. It's it's Florida31.org.
Florida spelled out or FL31?
Florida spelled out 31.org. I do have one that's FL314Bauer.com.
All right.
But Florida 31.
Joseph Bauer running on the Republican ticket, Florida Senate, District 31. Thank you for coming in today. It's been a real pleasure, and we know you a little bit better and appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much, Casey. And I
Awesome.
want to thank the sound engineer, Frankie. He's been a little quiet over here, but what a great guy. He's making me sound good, making me look good. So thank you so much. Thank you to WSTU 1450 AM. I appreciate this opportunity.
Our pleasure, Joe. Good luck on the road.
Thank